to Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and Under the Banner of Heaven. Mormons in media and Mormon land join forces to explore the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in pop culture.
Welcome back to our crossover episode of Mormon Land and Mormons in Media, the show where we dissect Mormons in media.
This show is unique, which we love, because we have lifelong Mormons who grew up in like the heart of Mormonism on one side. That's me. And then we have Nicole, who grew up not in Utah, is not a member of the church, and she gets to ask us all the questions that probably most people are thinking when they watch a show like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And today is super special because we also get Meg, who is a fellow Provoite. Meg and I grew up in Provo. We went to the same high school. We are good friends. Meg has a pop culture podcast called Hive Mind. And you talk about all things pop culture. You talk a lot about housewives. And you're recapping every episode of Secret Lives, right?
We are. Pray for us.
Oh my gosh. What episode are you on?
We just recorded 8. So 2 left, and then this confounded reunion, and we're done.
Oh my gosh. This reunion was wild. It's funny. Like, I feel like on every episode, I've been talking about Secret Lives in some way. I would love to talk about something else. But
It feels
people are still hungry for it. So I kind of today, the past couple episodes, Nicole, we've mostly had like Nicole write questions she has that come up as she's watching Secret Lives. Questions she has about Mormonism specifically, the religion or the culture, or where the two overlap. Today, I'm sure we'll do some of that, but I also wanted to like flip it a little bit today because I am not a reality TV watcher, but Meg and Nicole are both religious watchers of reality TV. And I feel like I need to ask you guys questions like just about the genre in general, because I am so confused. Secret Lives feels so, it feels so odd to me. It is not making me want to watch other versions of reality TV. So I mean, I guess I first want to ask, is this show heavier than most reality TV? And I guess we should say this episode specifically, we're going to focus on the reunion, the almost 2-hour reunion that Hulu put on, hosted by Nick Viall last night. So we'll kind of focus on that episode, but talk about the show in general. I felt like this season 2 in general was a bummer, but like the reunion was so dark. It was so dark. I didn't know how to respond to this. Is all, like, in your guys' experience, do you feel like most reality TV shows get this, not in the weeds, but like get this deep into people's personal traumas and issues?
I'll go first and say no. And I've watched a lot of reality television. I have watched every season of Vanderpump Rules, which is arguably the most unhinged group of humans you can put on a television show. And I have never felt this bottomed out by reality TV before. For Hive Mind, we've been recapping it week by week, which is like, I think, an appropriate amount of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives for the human body to handle, like once a week. In preparation for this podcast episode, I watched episode 9 and 10 and then the reunion. Oh. And I was in a dark place. During the reunion, I had to like take a break, walk outside, touch some grass, because it wasn't only like rehashing the drama of the season, but also we learned all of these new pretty dark things about a number of characters for reasons that I'm not entirely clear on, and it felt like a lot. Nicole, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so for conversation's sake, I will go the opposite route and say I do think that some reality TV can get, and I won't even say dark, I'll say heavy, because unfortunately I feel like life can be a dark place, and to have somebody open up their life like that, I feel like is very dependent on the person and on the show. Going to like Vanderpump, I didn't see that many heavy topics, but if you kind of look at their upbringing and you look at being in LA and kind of what they were there for, it was more of just partying and, hospitality. And if I don't know if you guys have ever worked in the serving industry, but it is a crap show, it is exactly what they portray. Maybe in LA it's just escalated. But I'm currently watching Summer House. I decided to start from season 1. It's another Bravo reality show.
Okay.
And it's
Are you having the best time?
I am. And it's funny because I don't know if you listen to Paige and Hannah's Giggly Squad, but a lot of my friends are huge fans of that podcast. So I had just decided to start that podcast without watching Summer House, which is where they started. And finally, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back and watch it. So there's not season 9 just wrapped up. We're currently on season 5, which is season 5, which is their episode of COVID. And this season, Carl, one of the stars in it, is opening up about his trauma and how his brother passed away from addiction. And so that felt very heavy, and he chose to, come to television with that story in hopes, probably to help somebody else and to make someone else relate, whereas he could have easily chosen not to do that. And I think that's some of the reunion. I don't know how much you guys have seen on social media, but Connor, his name's Connor, right? Whitney's husband.
Yeah.
He is taking so much heat for just people questioning his sexuality and this and that. And while I don't ever think that's fair to do, I think that's just the world that we live in, is that you see something, you judge it. It's maybe not what you're used to, or that's not how you perceive someone should act. And I really think that he used this as an opportunity to let people know more about him. And as heavy and dark as it was, I think he's right. I think he's going to save a lot of people and make a lot of people feel less alone. So as a viewer, I personally feel okay with taking on that heaviness because I feel privileged enough to feel heavy by it and not feel personally affected by it. And that's how I kind of choose to look at it. But then when you think of like housewives stuff, right? Like that doesn't seem super heavy, and they're more, I don't want to say like rich people problems, but I do think in some of these newer reality shows where you don't have a bunch of people coming from a bunch of privilege, they have real life problems and real life issues. I think that's where we're starting to see reality TV shift of people sharing and being more authentic, because right, like that's kind of the landscape of we're moving to. Even you look at like the rise of TikTok, people are liking more real, authentic, like one person shot videos versus the edited, highly produced videos. So I just think it's a change in landscape, and I think Secret Lives of Mormon Wives just happens to be kind of the forefront of it right now because of how open they're willing to get.
Yeah, it started on TikTok. Like it is a reality show and a social media show.
I felt like did a better job of this season of kind of, and we talked about this, Rebbie, in our last episode. I feel like they did a better job of explaining why the show started to begin with, right? Like it started from them swinging, right? And if you watch season 1, you don't really understand that. So I feel like it started from a kind of dark place to begin with.
Yeah. Well, and I think, okay, so I feel like the thing Connor shared made sense because there have been issues with him, right? He had the Tinder account. He had a porn addiction. Like we've known things about him, and I felt like it made sense for him to then share this history of sexual assault, right? That made some sense to me. What felt odd to me is that we got like multiple characters sharing these really deep things that there was no like, it was just like, I'm going to share that. And they're like, thank you. That's so brave. And then I'm going to share, I also was this and I self-harm and it's so brave. And I got thinking like, I mean, it's a couple things. Like one thing for me is I'm just not used to, I'm like, is this exploitative? Like, I don't think that they would have pressured them. I hope they wouldn't pressure them to share something like that. But I don't know. Again, I don't watch a lot of these shows, right? And like, I felt like I just feel like, is this the venue to do that? Maybe it is, you know, maybe like there's some burden of like sharing some trauma like that certainly, you know, I can relate to in some ways, sharing things about my family or things that are going on social media with followers. But I just felt like it was the way it was just like, it didn't go into a lot of depth about any of them. I just was like, what's the purpose? Like, are we trying to work through this? Are we trying to just show our humanity? Are we just doing this for shock value? Like, I think I am really feeling sensitive about the show of like what it's doing for shock value. And so I think that's where my, like, I don't know, red flags start to go up of like, because it is such an important, right? These are like really important, heavy things. And I just like,
I do get that.
It makes me
I do
uncomfortable.
get that. My hot take on it would be, I feel like the purpose would be more of certain cast members defending certain things about themselves, because going back to Layla and the stuff that she shared on Reddit, I mean, people are coming after her about how sick she looks, and they keep saying that, and how skinny she is, and this and that. And so in this day and age, like, it's getting their start on social media. They are clearly on social media, whereas some other celebrities, they might not see everything that people say about them online, but they're kind of in that middle ground, right? Like, yes, they have a TV show, but they are also moms and just people. And so I do think that some of it, maybe for them, was a way to defend themselves, and in a way because you also don't know what got cut. So maybe it was just them trying to say, hey, we're human. We see what you say. There are reasons we move the way we move. Maybe lay off, you know?
Yeah.
That might be a hot take.
Okay, that like brings up another question, but Meg, I want to hear your thoughts first.
Well, I was just going to say, I think this is probably your next question. That's probably my number one complaint about this show, is how much extracurricular research is required.
Yes.
How much I need to be paying attention to Reddit and to TikTok. And like, I'm busy. You know, I'm already watching 10 episodes of this. So give me that context. Like, tell me that people on Reddit are coming for Layla. Otherwise, I'm like, no, sorry, why are we talking about this? I really feel for you. That's terrible, but I'm not completely sure why we're talking about it right now when we've already heard a few other heavy things for what's like otherwise a frothy reality TV show. It just really threw me.
Yeah, it threw me too. And that makes sense. I mean, that seems very easy to say, like, Layla, some of the social chatter around you is about how thin you are, but you actually revealed last season that you've suffered from body dysmorphia. Like, can you talk more about it? You know, like, I feel like that would be easy. And that is the thing, like, is that unique about this show? I'm guessing it is, but it feels like it's almost like if you just watch the show, you're not getting the full picture. Like you said, you have to do all this extracurricular. Like, there's so much constantly happening, and it's kind of crazy how it's all happening real time. You know, it's like they release a season and then everyone talks about new things, and then they have the reunion. Like, it's constantly going, and I'm like, who has time for this?
I do agree with that. It feels like a show full of inside context, like inside jokes, right? Like, it feels, and maybe this says more about myself, that I don't have a life, that I know all these things, right? Like, I see the Reddit chatter, I see the TikToks. Maybe my algorithm is targeting me. I'm not sure, but I can see watching that, not knowing these things, because when Layla started talking, my wife and I were just, chatting about everything that had happened so far, and we started talking about the Reddit that was just weeks ago, and then she started talking about it, and we were like, ooh, okay, she's seeing it. And so it did feel, like you said, in real time I will say, I know we were complaining about it being almost 2 hours, but I do have to commend Hulu, because Bravo would have made that a 4-part reunion. So I do appreciate them just putting it out and letting me watch it at my own time, because
and that might be part of my issue, because I'm used to Andy Cohen like making this 4 weeks worth of content, and it was a lot. all at once, that we're not taking the time they would take on a Housewives reunion to talk through all of it. So it definitely felt like drinking from a fire hose, where usually I'm like, all right, let's wrap this up because we're really stretching this out.
And it also felt like a lot of like it felt like a lot of like, what's the word?
Filler?
Nothing burgers? Like, it's like, okay, what's the season 2 ended with this, like, these bombshell allegations that Jesse's having an affair with Marciano instead of Demi, And then he asks, and she's like, asks why she's not wearing her wedding ring.
I can't talk about
I can't talk about that. Well, why are you doing a show that,
Why are you here?
Yeah, like it felt like, and then, yeah, so I was kind of like, what is the point? And I mean, that is interesting though, to think that like, maybe just think about the way the audience for this show specifically has shifted, where because it is because their fan base started on TikTok and online with those like super fans, maybe that is intentional, Maybe the main body of people they're going for already knows all this stuff, and like they don't need that context.
Yeah, I do. It's hard to say, right? Like all speculation, but season 2 came out when? Was it in May?
Yeah, I want to say mid-May. Yeah.
Right. So it came out in July. Obviously, they had already recorded it. It wasn't a live reunion. So I'm just a little confused on their choice of timelines and stuff, because, okay, we've waited over a month for the reunion, and you didn't even tell us when season 3 is coming. So I don't know. It seemed like maybe they used this and used everything as one big teaser, and in hopes that it left you maybe with these questions, right? Like maybe these questions lead to season 3 viewership. I'm not sure.
Can you guys explain Nick Viall to me? Viall?
Oh, can I?
I think it's just Viall.
Okay. I thought it was Viall because Viall files, right? But then I swear he said Viall, and I was like, maybe he's trying to make it fancier. Like, all I know is that I like Googled him, and it says that he's been the runner-up on The Bachelor twice. Is that?
I think he was The Bachelor.
True?
He was The
If I may.
Bachelor.
Okay,
If I
please,
may.
Meg, educate us.
He first was on Andy's season and was, second place, runner-up, became a controversial figure when, during the reunion, he asked Andy, if you don't love me, why did you make love to me? Which was like blowing up her spot. They're not supposed to reveal what happens in the fantasy suites. That was like big no-no. Then he goes on Bachelor in Paradise, has a redemption arc. Everyone falls in love with him. He shows up on Caitlin Bristow's season of The Bachelor. He may have been on Caitlin's seasons prior to Bachelor in Paradise. It's a long time ago. Shows up on Caitlin Bristow's season, gets pretty far, I believe, second runner-up again, but she ultimately chooses Sean. Then he becomes The Bachelor, ends up with Vanessa. That falls apart pretty quickly. That's also the season where we got Rachel, who later became The Bachelorette and now hosts Morally Corrupt, the Ringer podcast. Nick then later starts this podcast called The Viall Files, which in my opinion is unlistenable. It is truly, but I find myself having to listen fairly often in my line of work, which is tragic. But they tend to be really long episodes. He brings on all of these TV star people. Like he had Tom Sandoval on. He's had the whole cast of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives on. Like
Why
all
does
the
he
time.
exclusive rights to them?
And this is the other thing where I'm like, now you're making me listen to podcast episodes. I have to be on Reddit. I have to listen to Nick's podcast. I have to be on TikTok. Like, this is a full-time job. To watch this show has become my full-time job, and I'm not making enough for that. Anyway, Nick's podcast is like a pretty big deal now. He married one of his producers who's significantly younger. It's a whole thing. You can find their wedding spread. I don't think it was in Vogue, but I think it was in like a wannabe Vogue. He's the worst. He did an okay job, I thought.
Like, it's funny because it was Lindsay who, before the last episode we did, she was like, ugh, like he's so, what did she say? She's like, he's just so normie. Like, he's so, and I looked back at the pictures of him from The Bachelor. Like, he's clearly had a glow up between the beginning of his career and now.
But that's kind of what was fun about him, because he, like, they all kind of look alike, right? Like, they all played college football.
Yep.
They have, like, cartoon pilot jawlines. And then there was Nick, who just kind of looked like a kid from Milwaukee, and that's kind of why people were rooting for him. And I think that's kind of always been why they've rooted for him, but now he's just kind of like podcast bro.
Yeah.
In a way that I can't root for anymore.
Weird. I thought he did a good job, though.
He did, except when he told them his opinion. Like, I want my hosts to be Switzerland. I don't want to know what they think about the different people. I think that they should be neutral territory.
And, like, I think you can have a host. I think at times I think you want them to push a little bit, right? Like, ask tough questions. But, yeah, it did feel like, who was it that he was like, when he was with Demi and he, like, stood up for someone. I don't know. It felt like he crossed the line of neutrality. Potentially.
And maybe that's the new way. Nicole, what do you think?
I so appreciate this history lesson because
you're welcome.
I don't know him from, like, I knew that he was a Bachelor Nation person, but didn't watch any of those seasons, don't know him from that. I know him from his podcast, and exactly like you said, he just seems to get everybody in all the timely places, and his episodes are so long to where I now kind of just listen to his podcast via TikTok because he'll post 90 seconds and that's all I need. I need the sound bites. Yeah. But and maybe because I don't listen in its entirety, maybe that's why I don't mind the tick. Like, I would say I watch whatever he posts. Like right now I'm currently watching Love Island and he gets, those right away, and great, I appreciate it. Like, I want to know what's going on then, so that's good. But anytime I tell somebody like, oh yeah, I heard this on the Viall Files, it's an immediate eye roll. It's an immediate like, oh, what a narcissist. And I'm like, why do we hate this guy? I have no clue why we hate this guy, because just knowing him from whatever he posts on TikTok, and when I Googled it because I was so curious, I found out he's the one that got cheated on. So I'm like, wait, why his now wife or whoever she is, she cheated on him?
I didn't know this.
I didn't know that either.
I don't think I'm making that up.
Wait, his current wife?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she cheated on him. And I thought he talked about that in a podcast, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. I definitely thought it would have been the other way around. But so thank you. I did not know why we dislike him. Now I know.
Okay, I just Googled it. Rumors of Nick Viall's wife, Natalie Joy, cheating have circulated online, specifically on Reddit. But they both have addressed the rumors by stating they will not be giving oxygen to them and prioritize protecting their family. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah, so they have a kid together, too.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like if you didn't cheat, you would just say no.
Yeah.
You would just shoot it down. So
I am so glad I'm not on reality TV. Can I say that? And I don't understand what possesses a person to want to do this. I don't understand. I mean, like, I know like money and fame, but I just feel like I'll look for any other way to make money. Any other way.
And I'm almost curious, and I'm very interested to know what you guys think, being part of the church. I think that up until now, right, like we had a plethora and almost like a surgence of shows, documentaries, everything about different things pertaining to the religion. But I think that this show it might make it the last, because at this point, I don't know how many more times we can talk about soaking, how many more times we can like make fun of soda consumption. Like I just don't know how many more times we can find that entertaining, or find that, how many times can you beat a dead horse? And I think that this, and it kind of, the sneak peek that they showed into season 3, there was like a clip where Layla talks about almost a faith crisis. And I am thinking that is, while that's completely valid, I don't know. I had this thought, and it might be a little harsh, but I was just thinking to myself, these girls on this show, like they don't need to be part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right? Like they can talk about faith, can mean so much to them, and that's completely fine. But there are other denominations and there are other churches that they can be a part of that, aren't as strict or aren't as all or nothing. And I kind of just feel like at this point, it just has to be getting annoying because the church can only do so much, right? Like the church has its rules. It's got its how it conducts itself. And I don't think a Hulu show is going to change that. It almost feels as if they are clinging on to it because they think it's trendy or they're trying to create that buzz.
I mean, it's the hook. I don't think it is. I don't think, and again, I know that early on when the first season was announced, it was like, there are all these members of the church being like, they're not members, like they don't accurately represent us, right? After the first season, I was like, okay, some of them are, they're at different places. Like, let's have a big tent and let anyone who wants to be part of this, right? But it is very clear to me at this point, like maybe some of them still go to church. I do not think that like involvement in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is like super important to these girls. I think Mormonism is the hook. It provides the tension. It provides the setting of hypocrisy for them to be swinging, right? Like and it's interesting you say that because I think the things they're talking about, all of the weird like sexual loopholes and the things that are the weirdest narratives that go around on Reddit, they get shared like wildfire because they're insane or, because they're dramatic and embarrassing and all those things. But like, I almost feel like it would be more interesting if they talked about Layla's faith crisis. And it was just actually, she could talk about like, here's where I was. And she's talked a little bit about like why she joined the church. Maybe it's just that it's interesting to me, but at least that gets to a deeper level. Like, I feel like anyone who's been part of any religion could understand like, or any group that you end up growing out of and changing, right? Like that to me feels like it provides like a reason for the church being part of the show, right? Like, and because right now, like you said, it's like, how many jokes about soda can we make? And like, guess how much soda plays a role in my life? Not at all. Like it's just not like I drive by Swig, I see a long line, I keep driving. I don't know. I just think like, I think there is a way to actually talk about faith crises. Like, wouldn't it be interesting if they talked about, all of the heavy things they shared, and that's something I kept thinking, because one of the things, sorry, I'm soapboxing. One of the things that like when you go to church and you sit in the pews, like one of the reasons you're ostensibly there is to like find help to deal with life's problems, right? And to have a connection to the divine that can help you overcome things and like get your life into a healthy, good place, right? And so I guess it's weird to me that like if this show really was about like members of the church who are committed and like that's a real part of their life, that would also be part of the conversation, right? And not that you're going to talk about like, and I guess it would be weird if they were like, and then Dakota and I prayed together and we felt like this, like, I don't know. I just feel like I agree with you that the surface parts of the culture of Mormonism are not interesting, but that's like, so it's like just barely touching the surface of what it is about to people who are part of it.
I think at this point, I can feel the producers trying to shoehorn it in, and it's kind of like being hoisted on their own petards, right? Because they name this The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Yes.
And so they have to make it part of the narrative, but there are all these hilarious scenes of when they've clearly asked, how does the church feel about this? And Jesse will say like, I don't think the church wants us to drink blood. You're like, yeah, probably not.
Yeah, she's like, where does vampire blood fit into the word of wisdom? I would have to guess it would be a no. Like, it is
they're pretty hilarious, but it's like clear they've run out of things to talk about, right? Like, because Mormons are pretty boring. Like, we're a pretty boring group of people. We live pretty boring lives. Like, that's kind of the whole thing, right? And they just keep trying to pull more and more out of this. And I'm like, I think we can let it go now, because on Housewives, they were really into it at the beginning. And then the interpersonal relationships became a lot more interesting, which I think is what's happening on this show. Like, I'm way more interested to see the group dynamics than I am to hear their thoughts on the church's stance on drinking blood. That's just, it's funny, but it's not, I think, why people are tuning in. I think the novelty and the curiosity has fade it.
Yes. It's like
Or
go
maybe
one
that's
way or the
wishful
other,
thinking.
right? Go one way or
Yeah.
the other. Either let that be the hook and then let us move on from it, which I feel like could easily happen, and that's fine. Or like, I mean, even another the scene from this season where they do like pregnancy test roulette.
Yeah.
That is like they totally could have talked about like what is it like to grow up as a woman in this church, and like the the pressure and the hope and the expectation of being a mother. Like that is something I was shocked that they didn't like touch on that at all, right? And so I do feel like I can totally see what you're saying, Meg. Like it's almost just I want them to go one way or the other, because
Yeah.
it's like in no man's land right now, and it feels losing me.
So I have a question, and if this is too personal, feel free to tell me to. But I just as someone who grew up Baptist, and then I had decided that organized religion was not for me. That's one way to go. But I do feel like the majority of people who grow up religious, they stay in the church that they grew up, like the denomination that they grew up in. And I'm just curious if there is something particular about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that keeps, whether it's you guys or your friends or just people who are part of the church, that keeps them with that despite everything, right? Or is it common for people to leave the LDS Church to go join another church that they feel maybe politically or maybe morally they're more aligned to? Like, is that common, or why do you think they are choosing to say like, oh yes, we are Mormon, but then do everything that the church preaches against, versus, I don't know, maybe go join the Community of Christ, or maybe go to I don't, does that make sense? Is that a thing?
I have lots of thoughts. Meg, you go, unless you want me to go.
I don't know a lot of people who have left who have joined other churches.
Yeah.
I know people who have left and have kind of shopped around and are maybe still in the process of shopping around. But I don't know many people who left the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints and then said, oh, I'm Catholic now, or, oh, I'm evangelical now. That could happen. It just hasn't been my experience. And I don't think all of them do say they're a part of the church. Like I've heard Jesse say, I'm not a part of it. Yeah. I think Yolanda has said that, and I think Layla said that, even though she said she wants to go through the temple. Layla, I feel like, is maybe fluid in her faith a little bit. Taylor still goes to church, which I think is interesting. I think Macy does. I don't know that Michaela has ever been a part of it. That's unclear to me, and I think Jen does. But I think that a lot of them have said, I'm actually no longer part of this anymore.
Yeah, I think they're part of it because they signed up to the show and the name of the show is Mormon. Like,
yeah, that's my impression too.
Like, and I think I do think that there is, if you're in Utah and you've grown up in the church and say you have, I don't know, a big family and a bunch of cousins that all go to church. I'm just saying, like, say you have like the stereotypical, Latter-day Saint experience here, then there is, I think, some level of inertia where it's like just easier to like kind of stop going. You're just like not going to wear garments anymore. You might start drinking coffee, but like you don't hate the church. You might go to your cousin's baptism. Like I think there's a lot of that here because it is kind of it's a cultural thing, right? Like on Sundays, my neighborhood is just like full of people in church clothes walking to church, and it's like things are closed on Sundays. And I mean, not everything, but like, and I think Utah is changing. I don't think it's, maybe what it once was stereotypically, but I think them being in Utah probably keeps some of the cultural things that make them feel like Mormonish, like without necessarily them like it being about their faith, if that makes sense.
I think so. I think I just get confused because I don't know. I guess I'm, in some ways, I feel so black and white about things where I'm like, if I don't agree with something, I'm out, right? Like if something, or if I choose, and maybe on the other side too, right? Like if I am part of the church, but I'm doing everything that, like, I'm almost like rewriting my own rules. Like that feels wrong too. Of, oh, well, like it says I shouldn't do X, Y, and Z, but I don't necessarily think that if I do X, Y, and Z, that makes me a bad Christian. So I'm still going to do this. I'm just not going to be like, to me, that feels like, okay, well, then what's the point? Like, if you're just going to go against everything, then why don't you shop around? Or, because it's not like other Christian denominations are against caffeine, or, like I don't know.
Yeah. So here, okay, I have two thoughts on that. One is that, like, I think Mormonism really becomes your identity. If you grow up in it, especially if your family is in it, especially if you grow up in like a very saturated community, like a lot of places are here in Utah, like it really is your identity. I think it's really hard for people to detangle from it than it might be another Christian religion. And maybe that's not, maybe I don't fully understand what it's like to grow up in another Christian religion, but I do think those, like word of wisdom, language, chastity, like there are things that are like very, a little higher demand, and it is like, it's all your neighbors, it's what you're doing. And I know, Nicole, we've talked about, you like went to Bible study, and that was like a social thing you did, on the weeks, but like, or on weeknights. But I think that Mormonism, I think that is maybe why, because there's so much community. Like there's the religion part and then there's the community part. There's a lot of overlap and it can be hard to pull those apart. And I think it is quite possible to be in the church all like community wise and to never have really fully figured out the faith part of it. And so I think some people kind of stay in the community and like the faith is kind of whatever. The other thought is that something interesting with Gen Z members of the church, and again, this is anecdotal, but I do feel like, or maybe not, Jana Reese wrote a book called The Next Mormons? And this is years ago, but she was like, did all this research interviewing, the next generation of people in the church. And like, they are pretty much just like drinking coffee and going to the temple. Like, and it's so hard for me to understand. Lindsay and I were talking about this after we just did an episode about garments. And we were talking about like women wearing sleeveless garments with wedding dresses in front of the temple. And one popped up on my feed of a girl wearing a sleeveless dress, but she's right outside the temple, but it's like very clear she's not wearing garments, right? And from where I'm standing, I'm having the same like reaction you're having, and I'm feeling so judgmental, like, okay, she's clearly not wearing garments, but maybe she is. Like, I don't want to judge her, but like it's something that doesn't make sense to me, because I'm like, it's so clear from the time I was raised in the church, it was so clear. Like, you're not drinking coffee. If you're drinking coffee, you're not going to the temple. If you're getting married in the temple, you're not taking off your garments the second you walk outside, But like, there's something in the water with these younger, and I don't understand it yet.
I don't know. The way that my brain works, you can't convince me that the difference between heaven and hell or sinning and not sinning is a coffee drink. Like, you can't convince me that morally someone is a better Christian because they don't drink coffee. Like, I can't make that make sense in my mind.
Where's the time I can't either? I just want you to know.
Whereas, like, I mean, I don't know. I feel as somebody who is a more masculine presenting lesbian, if I had to wear garments, I feel like I would have an identity crisis. Like, I don't know what I would wear, like it just, so I almost kind of understand wearing garments more, because that is such a sacred part of the religion. But something as trivial as caffeine, I mean, I feel like all religions, they preach like no sex before marriage and this and that. But even growing up Southern Baptist, like, that's probably the thing that was instilled in me the most, right? But then growing up, like being in high school, and I feel like for the most part, like in North Carolina, and maybe even in the South, like some people are way more religious than others. But for the most part, I feel like if you were to ask somebody if they're religious, they would say, yes, they're Christian, you know, X, Y, and Z. But I would be willing to bet that the majority of them did have sex before marriage, and it wasn't something that they thought was going to keep them from heaven, right? Like, it was just kind of, like, I don't feel like it's as ingrained in other religions of, you have to do this or else this. And I think that that's what not confuses me, but that's where my mind gets tangled up with these girls on Secret Lives, because, like, and maybe it is like Rebbie said, like, more of an identity and cultural thing, because in my mind, I'm like, you can still have your faith elsewhere and not be so, I don't want to call them disrespectful, but I mean, the church has, like, it has its rules. It has its, and I feel like that's completely fair for them to have. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that's...
Yeah, I think that maybe for some of them, and I would hate to put words in their mouth, but I think that they may no longer identify religiously as Mormon, but they may culturally be Mormon, right? And I think that can sometimes be interchangeable with living in Utah.
I was going to say, I think that is something that maybe just be unique to living in Utah, because it does seem to be more of a cultural experience.
Totally. Like, I think we have so many soda shops because people don't drink coffee, right? And so going to Swig is a quote unquote Mormon thing to do, even though
North Carolina, we just got our first one.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Thank you. I haven't been yet, but I texted Rebbie because one of our, like, local influencers that reviews, like, food and stuff, they went to the grand opening and the line was 2 hours long.
Oh my gosh, really?
2 hours long. It was, I mean, it caused traffic hazards. And
do you think it's because of the show that people know what it is?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I do think there is, like, I do think we're in a phase of people maybe personally moving away from alcohol. So they are trying to bridge the gap or other things. So I do think there's other things at play, but I do think this show has a lot to do with soda consumption.
I want to answer your question the best I can, to say, like, I don't watch this show and expect them to represent my faith. Like, I don't watch this and think, like, oh, if they were Mormon, they would do this and this and this and not this. I watch this show knowing they named it The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and we're not actually going to feature, like, hardcore Mormons, but we're going to feature women from Utah. And I understand that not everyone in that viewership has that understanding. But I just, like, for me, I don't get too caught up in, like, oh, but they're not keeping this and this and this rule, because I never went into it thinking these are completely devout women of my faith.
And that should be, like, that should be how it is perceived, right? Because it is. It's reality TV. It's entertainment at the end of the day. Like, to some degree, it might not be scripted per se, but in some degree, they're touching on things where people like us will talk about it, right? Like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they sure do. Do you guys like Whitney?
Yes, I do.
I do too. And I did not go into season 2 liking her, and now I do. I really like her. I don't really understand why she's still so close with Demi. That feels a little, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe she's just that nice of a person that she feels like she's being left out, but...
Or maybe she, like, knows what it feels like to be the villain.
Maybe, yeah.
Turn into the villain. I don't know. I'm like, I have to, like, question my own, like, I'm like, is she tricking me? Like, because I felt like the first season she really was. I was like, I think she's, like, a little sociopathic, right? Like, she could not acknowledge anything she did wrong. Like, she was... Do you think it's possible she just got a bad edit? I don't think that's possible, right? I mean, surely they made it worse, but, like...
I think
it's pretty awful the first season.
I think knowing what we know now about her relationship and what she's kind of gone through, I think that I'm chalking it up to she is in a much healthier place right now, being like having her family, moving forward with her family, and just being more confident in herself and her relationship. I think that, some of the times of my life personally, like that I'm the most embarrassed about how I was acting or how I treated people, probably was a direct reflection to like things I was hiding or things I wasn't confronting personally. So I think that might have to do with it too.
What do you guys think of Michaela just like refusing to be her friend and forgive her?
That was the part that I thought, like Nick, where I kind of cringed when he was like, "Do you want to give her a hug?" I was like, "Oh, come on."
I'm like, Nick, no means no.
Yeah. Now, granted, these are like, two women wanting to hug it out, but I'm like,
just like
that's like they haven't been friendly this entire time, and I'm sure she would have rather not done that. She just felt, like that. Yeah, that was icky.
I think that Michaela has a firm boundary, and that's great. I think in another season they'll be friends again.
Yeah. I kind of respect her, and like I like that she's just like, sorry, no. Like,
Yes.
oh no.
Like, good for you.
Yeah. She's just like, and she's not like rude about it. I mean, when she's pushed, she'll get, she'll defend her position and like get more like fiery, but I kind of like that she is just so calmly like, no.
In this season of my life, I am starting to respect people's boundaries a lot more, right? Like I think in a past life I would have seen that and been like, ooh, like why is she being so mean, like this and that? But you're right, like that's her boundary. She's sticking to it. It serves her. So respect it.
And like she was best friends with Whitney for a couple of years, right? So like it's clearly coming from a place of hurt and like wanting to protect herself.
Totally.
Nicole, are you aware like of how many Latter-day Saint connections there are on Dancing with the Stars?
Kind of, but the Tribune just put out an article last weekend about the history of dance in Utah and why dance is such a big thing.
How did I miss this? I've got to see that.
Yeah, it's from last weekend, but it basically talked about how the University of Utah and BYU some of the dance programs that started there, like the professors were some of the first of the art, and how somebody, and this is a very uneducated cliff note, so let me preface that, but somebody from early on brought like the Rockefeller money to Utah to do like some dance stuff, and it just started these different organizations and companies, and and so that was, I guess, why the colleges have such strong programs, which in return, I guess, go to Dancing with the Stars.
It's crazy. It's like one studio in the studio I grew up dancing at, Center Stage. Like they just like pump out. I mean, it's all the Arnold sisters, right? So there's half your cast right there. But like that's something I have got to do an episode on, or maybe we should do an episode on of the crossover, the overlap between Mormonism and dance, and specifically Dancing with the Stars is so fascinating. But and I think it's going to be, but they never talk about it, right? Like they never say, if they're all from Utah, but they don't, unless I'm missing something. I don't think they ever talk about like the cast members' religion or lack thereof on that show, right?
Not if they did that on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, just make it. But Rebbie,
I'm curious if they will next season with Whitney and Jen being on Dancing with the Stars. I'm so curious if it will like.
Yeah, it's a fun look. Look at the Mormons; they can dance. Tears was wrong.
You did say last episode that you love dance and you just dance it out, and that was what we talked about. Is I cannot believe that season 2 they were sober. Like I cannot believe that people can dance like that without being completely blacked out. And
I've gotten that comment at many a work holiday party.
I'm sober right now. I said there is no way. Like if you find me at a club, at a bar, at a concert, whatever, and I'm stone cold sober, I will look like I'm probably having the worst time ever. Like, and it's just, I don't know, like I just feel so insecure maybe, right? Like I feel like once you have a couple drinks in my system, I start to care less about what other people think, and then I'll bust out my awful moves. But I definitely couldn't do that sober. So I do think that maybe that has something to do with the Utah connection too, because you just grow up dancing and you can dance sober.
Power through the insecurity.
Yeah.
There was an event a few years ago. It must have been like 10 years ago now at this point, where it was like pretty much every Mormon mom in Salt Lake County got together for this thing called Mom Stomp. It was like a night of dancing and karaoke and stuff. And something happened with the venue. Like something was damaged, and the owners of the venue pulled up the surveillance tape from that night and said, like, clearly all of these women are intoxicated, and that's why things were damaged. And like, not a drop of alcohol in the place. You couldn't get a drink if you wanted to. It was dirty sodas and sugar cookies, and those were the only refreshments available.
Oh, I find that so cool, because I literally was just having this conversation with my wife this morning of how, like, I wish that, like, right, because you always just think, or I at least think that people are judging, right? Like they're always looking, or they're gonna have a thought, and I'm like, why does that cause me to live less authentically, right? Like like who truly cares? And it's just it's funny, because I have tried to recently, like, you know, like I'll shake it out, or I'll and it actually makes you feel better, right? You know, and it's just it's funny, because yeah, if you would have asked me like in college if I could go out and dance, I'd be like, no, unless I'm blackout, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Meg and I are going to see Beyonce at the end of the month, sober, or maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how much we dance.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
That is cool. That is. I've had a couple friends see her show, and they say it's life changing. So
I can't wait.
I wish to have my life changed in Vegas in July.
before we wrap up, I have to ask: did either of you go to BYU?
We both did.
Okay, so is the BYU Super Weekend a real thing? Because I feel like when they were talking about Mormon Hacks, I was expecting them to like actually talk about it, but I feel like they just teased us all, because you have me now Googling, like, what is derfing? What is...
Don't Google it. Don't Google it.
No, embarrassing.
I think the Mormon Super Weekend was like a whispered rumor passed down through generations. Like, did you hear that some kids go to Vegas and elope? I don't know a single person who actually did that. I was at the school 4 years, left on a mission, came back for another 2. Like, never in all the people. I worked at the bookstore. I met like everybody on campus. Never heard a single actual soul who did that. It may have happened like one time in the 80s. And now we're all like, that's a thing BYU students do.
And the way they said it on the show too was exactly how I heard it. Like, oh yeah, that's when people go to Vegas and do this. That's how I heard it too. Did you know people? It was just a whispered rumor. I've never met anyone who has soaked. I've never met anyone like these are like, are you sexually repressed? Yeah, you are. Are you like frustrated and trying to deal with it? Yes. But like, I just think like this narrative kills me, because, and it's something I'm like, I want to see the numbers, because it's like, it's crazy how initially I've watched the wave of this soaking joke be like, you know, watch like pop onto the internet and people be shocked by it. And then I've seen it like become something that is just like a joke people make, assuming this is a real thing that happens. And you know what's interesting? Do you guys get in your algorithm, probably not you, Nicole, like these like man on the street interviews with people on BYU campus? It's just like a guy with an interview and he asks Mormons questions about things.
They do.
Like, okay. It's interesting to me to see even those, like initially they would ask questions and it was like kind of these gotchas where you could tell they were like catching people saying sort of embarrassing answers. And like lately I've seen them and it's like the students are so savvy, and the ones I've seen lately, and they're totally playing along, and they're being like I saw one recently that was like, you know, it's like, what's the fastest engagement you've seen? And he's like, well, I met a girl like 5 minutes ago and I just proposed. You know, it's like they're dishing it back. And I'm like, I'm so curious what it's like on BYU campus right now. Because I've heard some of them say, like, he brings up soaking. He brings up all this stuff. And, like, they're dishing out these answers that, like, I can't tell if they're totally just for clicks or if they're real. But it has been kind of fun to see. And again, this is completely anecdotal, but just to, like, see the script get flipped a little bit where the kids are now, like, they know what's happening and they're just, like, playing along, like, joining in on the joke, right?
I do feel very, like, I can laugh at my brother, but you can't laugh at my brother about it. Like,
Yes.
it was fun for me to talk about those BYU students who might go to Vegas and get eloped so that they can have sex, but don't you dare say them. Like, that's my not true rumor that I get to pass along.
Yes.
I get that.
The way they just said it at the end is like, oh, and I think everyone's curious to know all of the Mormon loopholes that everyone does. I do have a friend who does coffee enemas, though.
Really? Does she like them?
What?
Does she like them?
Okay. And here's the thing. She's like my most hippy-dippy friend. And it's like a person who, for as long as I've known her, I knew her in high school. We were college roommates. Like, she was always doing some health thing. Her family was super into, like, you know, trying different ways of eating, different things, like all this experimental stuff. And for as long as I've known her, it's been true that, like, if you just told me, hey, here's this person you don't know and this is the things they're doing, I'd be like, that person is nuts, right? But, like, I know her and I love her and she's, like, the most down-to-earth amazing. Like, she's amazing, right? And so I'm just like, I think it's awesome. And it definitely was, yeah, we did a girls trip a few years ago and she was like, if it smells like coffee in the morning, this is yay.
I did not. I literally thought she was being sarcastic, and I thought that this was a joke until they started playing back the footage, and I was my mouth was so open that I genuinely thought she was poking fun. Like,
have you ever heard of that before? Had either of you ever heard of a coffee enema?
Yeah,
before?
I've heard of it before.
I have never heard of a coffee enema, nor had I. But I can't say how many times in the past 24 hours I have said poop hole loophole. I am finding a way to insert that in, no pun intended, in every...
I hate that a lot. Hate that a lot.
Oh, hate. So much hate. The thing is, like, and like the coffee enema thing, that has never been, well, in my 2 exposures to it, it's not like a loophole. It's not like a sex thing, right? It's like it's a hippy-dippy health thing.
Uh-huh.
Guys, I promise. I know.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Okay.
Can we move on?
Okay.
I know. Oh.
I have a would you rather question for the both of you.
Great. Bring it on.
Would you rather walk into your temple or a temple with a venti Starbucks coffee, or have to watch the reunion of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives with your bishop?
I think my bishop and I would have a good time. I think we'd watch the reunion.
Really?
Yeah.
I would just tell him it's hot chocolate, though. Yeah. Just a coward. That says a lot about your bishop. Actually, I think my bishop could hang, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, but neither. They both made all of the muscles in my body tense.
Yeah, I had a bad time this reunion. Bad time. But again, that might have been like the speed with which I watched the back half of this season. I recommend moderation.
Yeah, watching the last 2 episodes, and that is a lot. And that's coming from somebody who watched the whole season in one day.
It's like, I felt like I both needed to, like, you know, when you eat a bag of Doritos and you're like, that was a mistake. And then also like it's been like a couple days since a shower and you're like, bleh. Like, I had both of those feelings at once where it was like, I need to maybe go be in nature.
Yeah. That is the perfect description of the feeling of that. Yeah.
Are you guys excited for season 3? Like, after last night, I'm like, I think I don't want to watch it. Really? You're excited for it?
I am. Can I help myself?
I'm excited for it, and I think I'm more excited for it. There's a couple of storylines that I'm over. Like, I like myself for saying this, but I'm kind of rooting for Dakota. Like, I don't necessarily think I want him and Taylor together, but I don't think he's a bad guy. Like, I think he's made some mistakes, and like, yeah, they don't, I mean, I don't think that relationship is salvageable, but
Yeah.
I don't think he deserves to be as demonized as he is.
I think I don't think they're good together. I don't think either of them are bad people. Leanne, I think, needs to not be on this show, but Dakota, Leanne.
Oh my gosh. Her mom, Taylor's mom. Yeah. Also Miranda. What's Miranda? Why
Miranda? Sweet summer child. Just sat there.
I'm like, good job. Like, good job. You are.
She looks so beautiful. Her boobs are so big. Good for
so big.
Honestly, if they all got paid the same to be there, good for her.
Good for her.
True.
That bag.
It is so true. Yeah, like dollar per like effort or like emotional toll, she wins for sure.
Right. Like if this is the extent of what people are talking about her on social media afterwards, she won.
Yeah, for sure.
She won.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's not fun for me to watch. Like I don't feel like I'm like super defensive of I don't feel anymore like I'm defensive of them not representing my people or something. I just like didn't have a good time. So we don't know when season 3 is, right?
No, I haven't looked it up, but what the trailer that they aired, it didn't give a I think it just said fall. I don't think it gave a date.
It's too soon. Oh my gosh. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
I'm proud of us for doing it.
We did it. We watched it. We never have to watch more until 3 months when they release a new season. I just want to tell you that I appreciate all your questions. And I also, it's like you ask them in like the most nice, respectful way. You can always ask me anything. And it's like, it's so refreshing to just hear how you're looking at it. Right. Because like, I feel like I'm just so in this. I'm in it all day, every day. I mean, not all day, every day, but like it's my family, it's my neighborhood, it's my word. So like, I don't know. It's always refreshing to hear things that stick out to you as weird.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think that it's to bridge the gap between, right? Like you don't know what you don't know. And I think that the world would be a much kinder and a much more resilient place if we did have more open spaces to ask questions without judgment or without fear of being reprimanded or, being told that's not appropriate, and
okay, and that's something that I would say. I just hope that anyone watching this show remembers that this is a TV show and that not everyone in the show is representative, obviously, of everyone in the church, and that like I am hoping that it makes people curious and interested in these people, but that they don't think it's a documentary. That's my hope. But we'll see.
That's a fair hope. That's fair.
Yeah. Maybe next episode we'll have something else to talk about. I don't know. Like we've done 3 of these now and it's always been Secret Lives because that's been like what's happening, but I'm excited to talk about some other things. So
yeah, we should make it a goal next episode to see if we can go the whole episode without mentioning it. And
yes.
And that should be our goal.
And if anyone mentions it, we'll like have a buzzer and you get buzzed and you lose points. I like it.
Yeah, we'll make a game out of it.
Let's do it. Okay, well, thanks so much, Nicole and Meg. Meg had to jump off, but if anyone is not aware, Meg and Emily King on their podcast Hive Mind are recapping episode by episode. So if you don't want to watch it, you want to know what's happening, but like absorb it in a way that's like more funny and less, I don't know, potentially triggering. That's a great option for you. So
awesome. Well, I'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for doing this. It was so fun.